Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Command Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, the power bracket tier thingies are now, well, explained by Wizards for what they are looking to do. They are looking to get something out before MagicCon Las Vegas, which I think is very ambitious. If you haven't seen my breakdown on like the power bracket tiers and like what those are, make sure you check out my most recent episode where I talked about Wizards talking about taking over the format. But now on this episode, a little bit of speculation. Let's jump into it. I am going to be placing all the cards in the top 100 into what I think the power tiers are going to be. I'll get a quick explanation of the power tiers. Tier 4 is basically like, oh yeah, power level 4, that is the most powerful cards, that is the like crazy pinnacle cards. Like one of the examples was like Vampiric Tutor and then also Armageddon, which is, yeah, I mean, so it's kind of like they gave examples of incredibly over-the-top powerful cards and also like crazy cards that you shouldn't probably use in a casual game, kind of, basically. More like stacks-ish kind of breakdowns, but I'm going to be breaking things down. We're going to start off with whatever order Moxfield put all these in, and hopefully I got these in the right order and all the images correctly. There's 100 cards to go through. I will warn you that there is a 0 tier here as well, or a 0 level, which they mentioned with like Soul Ring. So that's like a special exception because that would obviously be like a power 4 card. And then all of a sudden, every single deck is a power 4 with that. So yeah, 4 is the most powerful, all the way down to 1, which is low power, which is just like cards that can go in any deck, essentially, that aren't going to tip the scales at the table. So if you haven't seen my explanation or the Wizards explanation for all this, check out the most recent episode. That being said, let's jump into this one. Here we go. Avacyn's Pilgrim, and I will warn you, a lot of these are just going to be straight up ones very, very quickly. It's a 1, okay? That's a 1. Birds of Paradise is a 1. We're going to go one at a time. I should probably say what the cards do. It's a 0-1. Flyer taps for 1 mana of any color. Yeah, like just straight up just Mana Dork. That is probably going to just be a tier 1 card. It's a very good card in Commander, Elvish Mystic. Also a 1. So all these are basically, again, just Mana Dorks. They are, yes, really quick ramp, yes, but they are incredibly vulnerable being creatures. They can be very easily removed by basically anything. So, yeah, they are good, but again, they are not like the most powerful thing ever. Oh my gosh, ban all of them. Not ban all of them, but, you know, like they're power 4. No. Dockside, different. That one's now banned, obviously. That is like permanent, obviously. Not permanent ramp, but like permanent mana extra. It's gone, so we don't have to worry about that anyways. Okay, next up, Esper Sentinel. A creature that is low to the ground. A creature that is kind of a stacks piece-ish. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless they pay X for its power. This is a really good low-to-the-ground draw engine for you. This one, I'll probably say it's at the very least a 2, potentially a 3. I reserve the right to change any of these, okay? But yeah, this one, again, they did kind of like put stacks pieces on the list. Like, they basically put like tutors and stacks pieces for the most parts in 4 through 2, kind of give examples just at the beginning. And like Thalia was on a 2. This is probably that or a little above. It's probably like a 2+, maybe a 3- in a way. But yeah, it's probably around there. So we're going to keep it at that. Next up, Finehorn Elves. Yet another just Mana Dork. Mana Dorks are just always just going to be a stamp for me at like 1. It just basically is a 1. I hope that there's not like an exception to it. This is the exception that some people might make. And I saw like an early list out there where people put like Ignoble Hierarch up there in like a 2. I'm still going to put it at a 1 just because it has Exalted. I don't think makes it like, oh my gosh, no, like higher power tier decks use this. Like a nice little pump effect, like sure, but like I don't think it actually breaks it into another tier. Llanowar Elves, again, yet another elf. Oh, this is one that I messed up on. There you go. Different art. So there you go. My apologies. I tried to catch them all and I missed one. All right, Noble Hierarch. I probably missed more than one. Again, exact same thing as Ignoble, basically. Again, it is a 1. A lot of these are just going to be straight up 1. And I think that's kind of the way it should be, basically. Just ones that, like, you should expect to see most of these in the 1 tier. There's not really many cards out there that really are like, okay, like, out of the 220,000 cards in Commander, there's going to be a small percentage that are in the tiers above a 1. Belver Strix, again, it is nice. Low to the ground, some card draw, but yeah, that is a 1. ETB, draw a card, Death Touch, cool, all those things. When it comes to cost reduction, again, on a creature like Goblin or Narcomancer, a 2/2 Goblin Shaman for 2 mana in Gruul, Each spell you cast that's red or green costs 1 less to cast. I mean, yeah, that is, again, on a creature. There are other things out there, like, I mean, like, when you have, like, the 2-mana artifacts that all reduce, the colors, essentially, right? Reduce the actual, 1 for each red spell, 1 for each blue spell. Those kind of cards, the medallions, I think it's medallions, right? Those are probably above, the 1. Those might be in a 2. But, like, when it comes to, like, this on a creature, again, creatures are easy to remove. You need to take that into account. So unless it's, like, giving you immediate value, like Dockside, where it's like, oh, on ETB, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's just, to me, this is also a 1. Sakura Tribe-Elder. Actually, I think I saw someone put, like, Sakura Tribe-Elders at 2. No, Sakura Tribe-Elder is not a 2, in my opinion. And again, it's completely fine to disagree, constructive criticism. Again, everyone's got different opinions. I understand that you all have different opinions than me, and I'm going to be getting comments like, how in the world do you think Ignoble Hierarch is not a 2? It's completely fine to disagree. Again, no harassing online, okay? Just constructive criticism. And again, it's just for fun, trying to see, like, what these might end up being. We'll see, when Wizards puts things out. Oh, I mean, hopefully soon, just so we have, like, an early idea, but hopefully they also, like, don't do it too soon so that, that they're making mistakes. I mean, there's going to be some adjustments happening with this, obviously, but yeah, we shall see what happens. All right, Sakura Tribe-Elder, that is definitely a 1 to me. Like, basically, yes, I mean, is ramp powerful? Absolutely, but, like, is this, like, the expected level of ramp? Like, 2 mana, you're getting 1 thing? Yeah. Eternal Witness, definitely a 1. Most definitely a 1. Yeah, you ETB, you get something back out of your graveyard. Yeah, cool. There's some cool things you can do with it. That doesn't mean it's overly powerful. Sad Robot, going to be very sad that it is also in the 1 tier. Now, let's see if I can do this properly, because now my images are actually kind of in a certain order. Okay, next up, Soul Ring. Now, this is one where they literally had to make a special exception because they're never going to ban Soul Ring, even though some playgroups out there, and myself included, think that it should be a banned card, probably. This is a tier 0 card, or power level 0 card, because it literally would be a 4. I mean, at the very least, a 3, but it would be a 4 most likely. And then that would mean every single deck in Commander is a 4. So it would kind of defeat the process or the purpose of actually having a list even. It would make every single precon a 4 as well. They don't want to do that. In fact, I believe they said, like, their precons are supposed to be, like, 1s, basically, when it comes to, like, power level around that. Or, like, that's the level of what they're kind of aiming for. But yeah, like, a 0 tier card is Soul Ring, so there you go. Like, that is just how it's going to be. Agree or disagree with it, that's just how it is. Arcane Signet. Now, this one I think is going to get some debate from some people out there, but again, like Soul Ring, this is going to be in precons too, so, like, it either is, like, a 0 or it's a 1 in my opinion. In my opinion, it's just straight up a 1. Like, yes, it's a ubiquitous card. It is a card that, again, you can just rubber stamp into every single deck. That does not mean that it is OP. It is not OP. It is just it is like the regular level of efficiency of Mana Rocks. Again, cost 2, taps for 1. It just also fixes mana. Now, should they have ever made this card? Probably not. That doesn't mean that it's broken, though. It is not a broken card. It is just a ubiquitous card. So either it's a 1 or a 0. Some people might argue for being a 2 or above, but no, I mean, at the very least, it's a 0. They're never going to say, like, this is anything above that, because, again, you'd make every precon, again, whatever number that is, then plus. Next up, Arcane Signet. Again, basically any Mana Rocks that aren't, like, overly efficient. Again, Mana Crypt just got banned. That one would be like a 3 or 4. Soul Ring would be a 3 or 4. In my opinion, they'd be 4s, basically. But yeah, like, outside of that, like, when you have Mana Rocks that are just doing Mana Rocks do, again, cost 2, basically taps for 1. Like, this one, filters mana, but it basically gives you 1 extra mana. All of these are literally going to be in the 1 tier, because that is the expectation of what Mana Rocks do. That just kind of is how it is. So Dimir's Signet, I mean, I'll just go through this quickly. Dimir's Signet, again, any kind of Signet. Felwar Stone, this one is kind of like, Arcane Signet-ish, but, like, not quite there, obviously, but still a 1. Is it Signet? And then, okay, we'll get to Lightning Greaves here in a second, but yeah. All these Signets, essentially, all these Mana Rocks, anytime I'm seeing a Mana Rock that just costs 2, taps for 1, costs 2, taps for 1, all of those basically just go in that exact same bucket at 1, in my opinion. Is Arcane Signet better than those? Yes, it is, but, like, that doesn't mean that it's a 2, in my opinion. That just means it's like, okay, that's, like, the expectation for what Mana Rocks do. They cost 2, they tap for 1. It's not anything broken or like, oh my gosh, target that player because they played an Arcane Signet. Like, you're never going to see that. All right, Lightning Greaves. This is a card that I've seen debate online on whether it's like a 2 or not. I don't think, and again, like, I'm kind of on the line that, like, most of these cards are going to be a 1. Like, the vast majority of cards in Commander that are played are a 1, essentially, and there are some that do stand out, obviously. Lightning Greaves, I mean, haste and shroud, that's very, very nice. Is that something that is just like, again, does that person who plays a Lightning Greaves get a giant target on their back for playing it? No, I don't think so. So I do think it's also a 1. And again, it's like, are there levels within the levels? Maybe, but, you know, I don't think so. Okay, Mind Stone. Again, let's go through these quickly. Taps for 1, cost 2. You can sacrifice for a card draw. More Signets, Orzhov, Rakdos, Simic, all of those. Okay, let's just throw all those again in the 1 tier. So again, basically anything that just does what it's supposed to be doing, that is basically going to be a 1 tier. Again, the expectation for Mana Rocks is cost 2, taps for 1. Cool, there you go. That's basically what they all do. Swiftfoot Boots, again, exact same thing as Lightning Greaves, where it's like, oh, okay, like, is Lightning Greaves better than Swiftfoot Boots? Probably in most situations. That being said, like, it is just an expected card. It's not like a, oh, this changes the game entirely kind of card. Talisman of Conviction. Again, basically, let's just keep going quickly. Talisman of Conviction, Creativity, Dominance, Hierarchy, Indulgence, Progress, I'm going to say Unity. Thought Vessel, we're just going to keep going. Command Sphere, and there you go. I guess Timeless Loss. We'll stop at Command Sphere because, I guess we'll stop at the Thought Vessel because those are all, again, cost 2, taps for 1. Let's throw all those again into the 1 power level. I keep saying like tier, but it's like power level 1 or whatever they want to call it. So every single one of these Mana Rocks, which again, like the vast majority of cards in the top 100 are like ramp. Like that, as you can notice, like that's like mostly what they are. Okay, Commander Sphere also there. Again, like, are all those cards, in my opinion, more powerful than Commander Sphere? Yes, it doesn't really matter though. They're all just kind of bucketed the same because like they're not like game-changing, like, you know, just giant lightning rod cards. Timeless Lotus, again, when it comes to like tiers, I think like the mana value of things is definitely something that is taken into account. Costs 5, enters battlefield, taps for Wooburg, like, wow, that's good. It doesn't mean that it's a higher tier, though, in my opinion. It's not a lightning rod type card. And again, at 5 mana, it's quite slow compared to other crazy things like, yeah, it's good. It's not up there, though. Okay. Moving on to our next category, we've got some enchantments. Mystic Remora. Now, this is where we really step things up right here. You can upkeep 1 enchantment for a single blue mana. Whenever opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card as player pays 4. This is absurdly quick card draw. I mean, like, that is an absurd taxing effect that no one can pay. I mean, especially early in the game, like no one's gonna be able to pay that ever, essentially. And so getting this out, yeah, you got to pay to keep it around, but you're going to get value out of it most likely. If you're playing this in a higher power pod, which is usually what you're using it for, you're getting a lot of card draw off of it. I'd say this is like Esper Sentinel level, if not above that. So this, we'll put this in a 2 for now. It could potentially be a 3 though. I think like there's going to be weird distinctions between like 2 and 3. Like 2 and 3 is like the probably most debated. I'd say like some people might like want to push things out of 1 into 2, but again, I think like between 2 and 3, it's gonna be like, oh, is it that or that? 4 is gonna be fairly obvious in my opinion. And then, yeah, 1 is also kind of obvious for most cards. Garrick's Uprising, just a standard. I mean, it's a good, all these cards are good, but again, like the level of, it has to really break a certain threshold to even get out of the 1 conversation, okay? Garrick's Uprising, enters, draw a card. If you got creature power 4 greater, creature control trample, creature control power 4 greater, enters, draw a card. Like, it's good in the right deck, but that doesn't mean that it is a card that is going to be anywhere outside of the 1. So there you go. All right, moving on. We've got Phyrexian Arena, a card years and years and years ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's like, it's all right. Yeah, being up, keep you draw a card, lose 1 life. Cool. All right, nice card advantage. It's nothing absurd, though. Moving on to something that is absurd. Rhystic Study. Here we go. And this is probably the first card that I'm going to have that breaks out of that, you know, any of these tiers. This is going to be, in my opinion, like a power level 3 type card. Enchantment for 3 mana in blue. When an opponent plays a spell, you may draw a card as the player pays 1. I mean, this is a stacks adjacent effect, in my opinion. Like, people who don't think this is stacks at all, I think you're incorrect. Because, yeah, it is basically like, oh, either way, this is just like all your opponent's spells cost 1 more. That stacks. Or, yeah, you just draw a card every single time an opponent casts a spell. That's like, it's a mix of those two things, and it stacks adjacent. And the amount of value you can get out of this is crazy. The amount of card draw you can get out of this is crazy. It's an enchantment, which is a hard type, permanent type to deal with compared to most permanent types. Drawing cards is a very, very, very powerful thing. This is a mainstay, essentially, when it comes to just absurd card draw throughout the game. Yeah, I think that this is a card that could be argued for as the 3, power level 3, I think. Moving on. Rim of the Wild. This is a card that is nice. Creature spells you control can't be countered until creature control have Riot, so it can give haste as well. Basically, yeah, I mean, it's nice, but it is, like most of these, power level 1. Moving on. Timber Ascendancy. Also power level 1. Creature control have haste. Creature power 4 or greater is spell for control. You may draw a card. It's nice for the right deck, but again, is it like, hey, yeah, it's, oh my gosh, this is a game-changing card? We have to take that person out right now. Like, no. Smothering Tithe, that is a card that is. This is definitely a card that is. Enchantment for 4 mana in white. When an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a treasure token. Again, stacks adjacent type card, really, because, yeah, if it was just, hey, your opponents, whenever they draw a card, they have to pay 2, that would be crazy. Or if it's just like, hey, when an opponent draws a card, you get a free treasure token, which is basically what this is. It's crazy good. This is kind of one that's like, okay, maybe this should be like a 2/3, but like it's probably, in my opinion, a 3. Wizards might put it at, again, like Wizards like has, I hope they don't like, again, like with Sol Ring, right? They had to kind of make an exception with that one. With Smothering Tithe, it's like they knew what they were doing when they printed this one, and like they probably never should have printed this one. But like because like it's such a ubiquitous card and sees a ton of play, like that in Ristic Study, like are they going to like throw these down in like the 2 tier and be like, it's not that bad, because they don't want players to be like, oh, I can't put this in my deck if I want to play with that 2-pod over there or whatever. It's going to end up being like a command fest. We shall see. Rory's Wake. Creature controller ++1. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type land produced. Doubling up your mana is a very powerful thing. This is one of those cards where like I'm probably on the border of like it could be a 2 tier, but might be a 1 tier. Like mana doublers, sure, there are better mana doublers out there. Mana tripler, yeah, it's crazy. So this is one that's like, this is one where I could be convinced on like mana doublers and stuff like that, because it is a crazy, like this is a lightning rod type card when someone plays it. Okay, maybe I'm wrong on this one, but my gut does say 2. It could just be a 1, but my gut does say 2 on this one. Okay, moving on to Instance. An offer you can't refuse. Counter target non-creature spells. Controller creates 2 treasure tokens for a single blue mana. This is one that I do think is also potentially going to be in question. Like, when you think of a counterspell, you think of 2 mana, and we'll get to that here shortly. You think of a 2 mana counterspell, right? That's like the standard. So that, to me, like, that is a 1. But, like, when it comes to, like, less mana than that, that is more unexpected. That is more higher power. Yeah, this is only for non-creature spells, so those are the ones that typically matter. Yes, it gives that opponent 2 treasure tokens, but still, like, it is a card that you're going to see in higher power play, typically. I would say this one is, like, it's like a 1 border 2. And maybe, again, I'm giving, like, maybe I'm just trying to find, like, cards that actually can fill the spots above, because there's only going to be so many. But, like, I do think that this is one that could be questioned to be outside of that 1 range. So there you go. Again, because it breaks expectations for counterspells. Brainstorm, I mean, these kind of like just simple, it's a cantrip. Yes, it's good for the right deck out there. Like, is it absurd? Like, no. Instant for a single blue mana, draw 3, put 2 on your hand, top your library in any order. You're only getting, you know, yeah, you can, you know, get bad things out of your hand if you've got like ways to shuffle your library, like a fetch land, cool. Other than that, though, like it's a 1 mana draw 1 card basically kind of spell. So yeah, that this, like any other cards that are like it, are going to be in that 1 tier. Okay, next up, Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual is a card that is very, very powerful. Instant for a single black mana, add 3 mana to your mana pool. Ritual effects that are this efficient are very powerful, obviously. This one I do think does break into that. I mean, maybe people might argue for it at a higher tier even than this, but yeah, 2 tier. I think it's a power level 2 type card. Yeah, it can kind of burst you out onto the scene and get way ahead of all your opponents. So I do think that one's up there. Okay, moving on. Enlightened Tutor. So Enlightened Tutor is an instant for a single white mana. So apply for an artifact or enchantment card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. Their example was Vampiric, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, at the 4 tier. This one, and their example for the 3 tier was Personal Tutor, which is just kind of, again, like, it's going to be weird to see, like, where they put these exactly, because this could be a 4 or a 3, basically. I'd probably put this one up at a 4, because, I mean, Personal Tutor, like, okay, Vampiric Tutor is better, yes. In Vampiric Tutor, you lose 2 life, you get any card out of your library, you put it on top. Instant speed for 1 mana. This is also in speed for 1 mana. You're not losing 2 life. Who cares about that, really? It's more specific, though, artifact enchantment. So it is more specific, so you could knock it down to a 3. But the example that they gave it 3 was Personal Tutor, which is sorcery speed. And the difference between sorcery and instant is massive. So I would kick this up to the 4 tier. Because, yeah, if you're playing Enlightened Tutor, that's an incredibly powerful card. Any kind of a tutor, especially, again, very efficient, just 1 mana, crazy good. Yeah, it's a bit more specific, but still, like, it's less specific than Personal Tutor is, which is just sorceries. So yeah, Mystical Tutor, which again is a level above Personal Tutor. Again, instant speed for a single blue mana. Same cost right there, but again, instant speed instead of sorcery speed. Search life for an instant or sorcery. Again, instant or sorcery, not just Personal Tutor, which is just sorcery. Put it on top. Yeah, I think that these actually are in that 4 tier, so let's put that one up there as well. All right, moving on. Path to Exile, they actually put Swords of Plowshares. They gave the example for that, like, in the 1 tier, which I agree with. So, yeah, Path to Exile is definitely the exact same. Basically, you know, like, Swords of Plowshares is, in my opinion, better than Path to Exile most times. Instant for a single white mana, exile target creature controller may search life for a basic land card for the land of battlefield tap, then shuffle. Basically, you ramp someone else to get rid of something big. When it comes to, like, removal, I think most removal, not counter spells necessarily, I think most removal is just going to be like, yeah, like, even if it's very good, very efficient, it's probably going to be a 1 for the most part. Swan Song, say another one that's kind of like, you know, an offer you can't refuse. Instant for a single blue mana, counter target enchantment, instant or sorcery spell, its controller creates a 2/2 bluebird creature target with flying. Again, when it is a 1 mana counter spell, that does break the trend, that does break the efficiency of what your typical counter spells are. So I do think that, again, counter spells, tutors, stacks pieces are kind of just, you know, treated differently with this kind of a list. So I do think that this one is probably a level 2. Because, like, it is going to see play in, like, higher powered decks compared to your more casual decks that aren't, like, looking for, like, oh, I only need 1 mana up. Okay, I'm going to counter, like, things because, like, the game will end because of a, you know, combo, essentially, if I don't. All right. Swords of Plowshares. Exile target creature controller gains life with its power. We know where this one is landing, unless they literally change it, which they might, but I doubt it. This one is landing in the 1 tier. This is one of the examples that they did give that is in the top 100. So there you go. Again, incredibly efficient. Like, there are going to be less efficient removals that are on the top 100, but, like, they are obviously going to be in the exact same bucket as this one because, like, one is going to have a really wide range of, again, Swords of Plowshares down to Hill Giant. Like, I just say Hill Giant is an example of, like, a terrible card. It's a 3/3 for 4 mana. It does nothing else, okay? Like, it is a bad card that you're not going to see playing, like, any decks out there. It is in the same power level as Swords of Plowshares, which is an incredibly powerful card, simply because, like, these are cards that you can see in any deck out there, and it doesn't really change. It doesn't change, like, not the outcome of the game, but, like, it's not like a lightning rod type card that's like, oh, this is a higher power deck because it has that in there. Vampiric Tutor, yet another example. Ironic that these are back-to-back that they gave, and this is a power 4 card. This is an instant for a single black mana, search life for a card, then shuffle your library, put the card on top, you lose 2 life. Yeah, a tutor that can go get you whatever you want out of your deck for a single mana, instant speed. Oh my gosh, you lose 2 life? No! On top of your library, yeah, I mean, cool. But yeah, it is an absurdly powerful card. Any of these kind of like in-speed 1 mana tutors, I do just think are bucketed at that 4 tier. I mean, Vampiric Tutor's like above them. It's like a 4+ or whatever compared to some of the other ones, but like I do think it's still right there. Worldly Tutor, yet another one. Subscribe for a creature card reveal, put it on top. Yeah, again, even though it is specific, like more specific than the other ones are, creature card, I do think it is still like instant speed, 1 mana tutor on top of the library. I do think that does go on top. Arcane Denial. Counter target spells controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of next turn's upkeep. May draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Yeah, I mean, it is a very good counter spell. I don't think it's quite on the power level, and I might get some pushback for that, and that's okay, of like an offer you can't refuse or Swan Song, because it is the 2 mana kind of standard for a counter spell versus, you know, 1. So I do think, though, even though like you get a card, like your opponent gets 2 cards, I do think this one is a 1, even though some people might push that back on that. Next up, Assassin's Trophy. Again, it's removal. It's efficient. It's very good. It doesn't, like, I think most of the removal, though, is just going to be bucketed in that 1 tier because, like, yeah, that's just kind of, I feel like what removal for the most part is going to be. Not counter spells, removal for the most part is going to be to them. Is going to be all power 1, basically. Destroy any permanent essentially opponent controls. Control may search life for a basically input battlefield and shuffle. It's kind of like Path to Exile, but for any permanent, kind of, but destroy, not exile. So, yeah, I do think it's in the same bucket. Boros Charm, again, any of these charms, they're very, very good. Like, and a lot of them see a good amount of play. They're still, like, power level 1. Like, it's not like, oh my gosh, they played a Boros Charm. Everyone go after that player. Like, instant for 2 mana in Boros. Choose 1. 4 damage to player, Planeswalker. Permanent skin indestructible. Double strike to a creature. Yeah, I mean, permanent skin indestructible with 2 mana is a very, very good effect. This is the one that's probably the closest to being out of that tier 1, and maybe it is just because, like, instant speed, 2 mana, protect your entire board can be huge. And there's another card, like, that we'll be bringing up here shortly. I am sure that, like, maybe that changes things a little bit, but I don't think it quite does. So we are going to throw this one. Yeah, we're going to throw this one in the 1 tier. Okay, next up, I already kind of mentioned this. Counterspell, that's like your standard counterspell. It's very, very good. Very, very... I mean, it's the regular level of efficiency of a counterspell, essentially, on, like, what your expectation is, I guess, for the most part. Like, okay, I pay 2 mana, I can counter a spell. Cool. Yeah, I think that this one is, like, kind of the standard. This is, like, a 1 tier. It is not quite up to, you know, the, oh, okay, 1 mana counter, you know, things I need to counter. Okay, Cyclonic Grip. This one I think is going to be a lot of debate as well. Instant for 2 mana in blue. Bounce target non-land permanent you control back to its owner's hand. If it was just that, this card would not see much play at all. Overload for 7. Basically, instant speed. Bounce everything you don't control back to owner's hands except for lands. Yeah, instant speed, board wipe out of nowhere with flexibility. That's an incredibly powerful card. It is, I would say, probably a power level 3. Like, it is not the top of the top. It is very, very, very good. It's kind of weird because, again, there's going to be like this gap. I mean, maybe some people I think would argue for a 2. Some people argue for a 4. I'm going to put it at 3. I do think it's kind of in that same, like, Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithe, like, that area, essentially. I don't think it's quite up to, like, those 1-mana tutors, but, yeah, I think it's very, very good. Again, removal for the most part, I think is going to be downplayed. I mean, not downplayed, but, like, kind of like Mandorks. Like, they're all just going to be chucked into 1 for the most part. But, yeah, this one is definitely different. This one definitely stands out. D-Spark. D-Spark is very good. Exile target permanent mana value 4 or greater, instant for 2 mana. Just because it's very good does not mean that it's going to, be anything outside of A1, unlike all the other ones. So there you go. Like all the other ones. Dovin's Veto, again, counter target spell. This spell can't be counter target non-creature spell. It's a negate that can't be countered. Yeah, it's basically just the exact same level as the other counter spells, though, that are going to be in tier 1. Next up, Growth Spiral. 2 mana, draw a card, put a land from your hand on the battlefield. Again, like this, 2 mana ramp, essentially, in a way. Like, all of that is up to expectation. Like, is it very good? Absolutely. Is it anything above, a 1? No. Okay, moving on, and this is the one where I'm saying, okay, again, Boros Charm might move up because of this, but, I think this is just on a different level than that one is. Heroic Intervention, instant for 2 mana in green, permanent you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. It is, overly efficient compared to most protection spells, where it's okay, 2 mana, protect all your things from not everything, but basically anything. So, being able to say, oh, yeah, okay, you targeted that. Oh, okay, you tried to destroy all these things. Yeah, I'm just going to instant speed for 2 mana, just 1 and a green. Again, generic and a green. This is, a step above a Boros Charm, and I do think it does make it into that tier 2, or power level 2. So I do think that that's the case. Okay, Mana Drain. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, instant for a blue, counter target spell at the beginning of your next main phase. Add an amount of color equal to that spell's converted mana cost. This is just counterspell plus in a way, obviously. This is one that I do think, could break into potentially, this is either 2 or 3, in my opinion. It is not 4, in my opinion. It is 2 or 3. I think I'm going to throw it in the 3, though I could definitely see arguments for it in 2. Because, you would rather... It depends, right? Because, the 1 mana counter spells, this is, 2 mana, the standard counter spell, but also, you get a bunch of free mana, which is crazy. So it's kind of like a ritual effect in a way, too. So, yeah, I could see arguments either way. This is probably one that I'm one of the most torn on, where it's, a 2 plus 3 minus, kind of. So I'd say it's around there, okay? All right, next up, Negate. Standard counterspell, essentially. Again, standard counterspell treatment for me. It is going to be in the tier 1. Next up, Rakdos Charm. Again, great flexible cards. Exile Graveyard, destroy an artifact, 1 image its controller. Boros Charm is definitely the most powerful, in my opinion, out of all the charms out there. And it is still a tier 1, in my opinion. So all these other ones are also going to be tier 1. Next up, Terminate. Again, literally, if Swords of Plowshares is a 1, Terminate is a 1. Destroy any creature can be regenerated for 2 mana. Yeah, it is definitely a 1 if Swords of Plowshares is a 1. Moving on, Anguish Unmaking, very good card. Again, I do think that basically all removal is for the most part going to be in that tier 1. Exile target non-land permanent, you lose 3 life, 3 mana instant. Yeah, that is just going to be a 1. So yeah, I just think I think again there might be some pushback for that, but I think for the most part, again, if Swords is a 1, everything else is pretty much a 1 when it comes to removal, except for a Cyclonic Rip, which is different. Beast Within. Beast Within, very good. Again, destroy any permanent. It's also a 1. They get a 3/3. Cool. Bedevil, again, destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Also a 1. A lot of these 3 mana removals, yeah, they're very good cards, but also they're just 1s. Chaos Warp, get rid of anything. They shuffle it. They get something off the top of the library. Essentially, cool. But yeah, it's basically still just a 1. Okay, moving on. Here we go. Deflecting Swat, instant for 3 mana, but you're never gonna pay that. Basically, if you control a commander, you may cast a spell that paying its mana cost. You choose targets for target spell or ability. Free redirection, basically, or a free counter spell, which is some people just don't realize that. This is just a free counter spell for red, because if someone tries to counter your spell, you just cast this for free, and you're I redirect your counter spell to my Deflecting Swat. Cool. It prevented whatever you wanted to happen. Okay, so Deflecting Swat, any of these free type spells, they're all, not all the way up there, but the ones that probably shouldn't have been printed, like this one and the next one we'll talk about here in a second, Deflecting Swat, probably should never have been printed. It is, in my opinion, probably a 3. This is just a free effect. This is just, hey, okay, yeah, you're tapped out. This is a very high power card. You're tapped out, and then your opponent's like, I'm going to do this. And then you're like, doesn't matter. I've got a free spell. There you go. Yeah, it's a game-changing just card. It's crazy. They should never have printed these. Fierce Guardianship. Yeah, basically, this one is potentially on a different tier, even. This one is instant for 3 mana. If you control a commander, you may cast spell paying its mana cost, counter target non-creature spell. This one, I think, might even, like, this one might break into tier 4. Like, this might break into tier 4, where this is a card that's just a different level of power. So again, I kind of hope that like Wizards like is honest with some of these things again, because like, I mean, I expect them to be, it just depends really. But like when it comes to like them admitting their mistakes, it does take quite a while. Like they did admit on the stream that like Jewel Lotus was a mistake. Dockside was a mistake. Fierce Guardianship's a mistake. Like these cards are mistakes. And so by putting them in tier level 4, it's like, oh, we printed a tier level 4 card in a pre-con, and we're like, yeah, it's fine. Okay, crazy. All right, Generous Gift, again, basically just Beast Within. Exact same thing. That is going to be a level 1. Okay, moving on to Putrefy. Putrefy, again, just a standard, hey, remove something cool. Yeah, okay, that is just a level 1. And we're getting, like, this level 1 is getting quite packed. Okay, there you go. Destroy target artifact creature, can't be regenerated. Teferi's Protection, this is another one I think is going to be a lot of debate around. Instant for 3 mana in white. Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. Exile it. Basically, I'm not here, and you all deal with whatever's going on. So again, this is like heroic intervention level. In my opinion, it does cost 1 mana more, which does make a difference, but also protects you from like nearly anything. So I do think that is a level 2 type card. And that one, I think some people might argue with a little bit higher even. I think some people might put it 3, and some few might put it 4, but we'll see. All right. Void Rent. Maybe Wizards will put it 4. I'll be very wrong. Void Red. Instant for 3 mana and Esper. Can't be countered for target non-land permanent. Again, removal. Very good card. Yes, absolutely. But, like, is it outside of 1? Is it better than Swords? Like, no. No, it's not. Okay, moving on. We've got Return of the Wild Speaker. A really cool card. Draw cards. You can raise power among non-human creatures you control. Or you pump your non-human creatures +3/+3. Instant for 5 mana. Yeah, it's a great card. But, like, is it anything, like, where it's like, oh my gosh, that player played this. Wow. Most powerful card in the game. No. So there you go. Okay, moving on. Faithless Looting. A cool card, a very good card, but nothing that's actually all that special when it comes to like just looking at, you know, Magic in general. Like, is this anywhere near the level of anything on 2? No. Draw 2, discard 2, flash it back. Nice. Same thing with Ponder. And again, like some people might like push back on like Brainstorm maybe or Ponder or those kind of like they're good, but it's not like. Again, it's like a 1 mana draw 1, basically, at the end of the day. You're like, yeah, it does other things to it. Like, cool, but, like, you know, it's a 1 mana draw 1. It's a cantrip, essentially, at the end of the day. Is it, like, one of the best cantrips in the world? Sure, or Brainstorm. But, yeah, like, is it anything that's outside of a 1? I don't think so. Okay, Reanimate. This is one that's probably going to see some different opinions on it, too. Again, when it comes to, like, okay, let's just read the card. Reanimate for a single black mana sorcery per target creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield. Under control, you lose life, equal its mana value. I mean, like, the level that this usually sees play at is probably a higher level where you're, like, trying to get a creature in your graveyard immediately and then, like, reanimate them, like, turn 1, like, an absurdly powerful creature. Yeah, it's crazy good. And again, like, the standard for how much does a reanimation effect cost generally? 4, usually, to, like, reanimate something from a graveyard, or typically your graveyard, but a graveyard, it usually costs 4. So, like, this is super undercosted. But again, like, it's more, like, specific. So, like, I could see an argument for this one, like, at, like, a 2. Like, this is, like, this to me is, like, a 2 - 1+ kind of card where it's, like, yeah, it's probably, like, the one that I have the most hesitation out of everything and the 2s to, like, put up into a 2. So I'm going to throw that in a 2 for now. But, yeah, I could be very wrong on that. Maybe people think it's even higher than that. But, yeah, I think it's a 2. But maybe it's just a 1. Okay. Vandal Blast, again, when it comes to, like, removal, it's like, yeah, most removal for the vast majority is like a 1. Vandal Blast is, you know, destroy an artifact, cool. Or destroy all the artifacts you don't control, cool. Yeah, it's good. It's sorcery speed, though, still. So there you go. All right, damn, destroy a target creature. Creature can destroy this way, can't be regenerated. Overload it for 4. Yeah, it's good again. Single removal or, you know, a Wrath, essentially. But again, this one is at sorcery speed. That is so much different than Cyclonic Rip, which deals with everything. This only deals with just creatures. It's a good card. It is still, in my opinion, just a tier 1 card. Next up, Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor is, I'm just going to throw it up there right now. Demonic Tutor is, in my opinion, a power 4 card. This just is. Search your library for a card, put the card in your hand, then shuffle. 2 mana sorcery. It is, okay, compared to the other tutors that we have up there. Again, we've got the 4 tutors that are all 1 mana instant speed. Okay, those are absurdly powerful. Yes, okay, I think this is on that level too, because again, it gets you a card right in the hand. Yes, it does cost 1 more mana. Sure, that does make a difference. Yes, it is sorcery speed, but again, it is any card directly into your hand. So it's kind of like Vampiric Tutor, but sorcery speed, but you pay 1 more mana to draw the card as well. So it's up there. Again, it's one of the most powerful cards ever printed. It is just basically any card in your deck plus 2 mana. That's basically all this card is. I think that it has to be considered to be a power 4 card. Next up, Farseek, going to the exact opposite end of that. Again, a very good ramp spell, but again, the ramp is like, your expectation for a ramp is, okay, cost 2, gives you 1 mana. Yeah, does this do that? Yes. Feed the Swarm. Again, just good removal for the right deck. You know, if you have mono black, you're like, oh my gosh, I love this card. Destroy target creature or enchantment. Opponent controls. You lose life with permanent mana value. Yeah, it's a level 1. Okay. Nature's Lore, again, exact same thing. Destroy force card, put that card on the battlefield, then shuffle. Yeah, I mean, these cards are all just any of the ramp. Again, cost 2 gives you 1. It, in my opinion, is literally just always rampant growth. That is the expectation essentially for ramp. That is just what they do. So unless there was like cost 1 gives you 3, yeah, sure, then that would be at a different level. Okay, at rampant growth. Moving on, we've got 3 visits. Again, exact same thing. I'll just go through these quickly. Cultivate as well. Cost 3 gives you 2 basics. 1 goes on the battlefield tap, 1 goes to your hand. These are also going to be, you guessed it, tier 1 cards. And this is getting so long that I literally have to scroll down to get down to the images now. We're almost done. Okay, here we go. Jessica's Will. This is one that is a higher power level card. Sorcery for 3 mana in red. Choose one if you control a commander you cast a spell. Choose both. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Exile top 3 cards of your library. Play them this turn. This is, and again, this is kind of weird because like I put Dark Ritual as a 2, but that's obviously lower to the ground and can just give you that burst mana right away. This one does cost 3. Obviously, decks that are playing this are going to be higher power, though, for the most part, and they're going to try to get that out as quickly as possible with a commander as well and get an absurd amount of mana. Again, like 7 mana for 3, paying 3, getting 7 mana versus paying 1 and getting 3 mana, and also potentially getting cards off the top of your library, too. It's a very, very good card. This is one that's like a 2/3, I would say. Again, I think I do lean this one up in the 3, though. So just like kind of like with what types of decks play it, I do think that that is probably a level 3 card. Kodama's Reach, exact same thing as Cultivate, literally, except this is also an Arcane, which does not matter at all for 99.999% of situations. There you go. Toxic Deluge, sorcery for 3 mana in black. Just cost to cast it, pay X life. All creatures get my sex still have turn. This is like the one Wrath outside of Cyclonic Rift that I could see arguments for it being above a 1. Oh, this is tough. Okay. Because, like, yes, it's like 1 mana less than a Wrath of God, right? Which is the standard for a board wipe. Okay, 4 mana, destroy all creatures, okay? This one is 3 mana, but you also can kind of make it a one-sided board wipe in a way, depending on what your creatures are, because if you have the biggest creatures out there, this is a one-sided board wipe for 3 mana. It's still sorcery speed, though. This is one where, again, like, it's either a 1 or a 2. It's kind of like a 2- to me, and I don't know if it quite even makes it there. I don't know. I really don't know, and it just depends on what Wizards does. I'd say that they're probably going to put it at a, oh, goodness. I think, like, all removal is basically kind of just a 1 for the most part. Like, just for the most part, it really is. Like, if you're going to say Swords is a 1, like, it kind of just makes all removal into a 1. I think maybe they'll put it at a 2. I could be convinced that it's at a 2. This is probably one of the ones, again, that I'm most struggling with. Like, it's very good. It's a very good card. I don't think it's one that, well, it's like, oh my gosh, the player played that. I can't believe they played that. All right, next up. Windfall. Everyone discards their hand and draws cards. Equal greatest number of cards that player discard this way. Yeah, it's a very good card. Wheels are crazy powerful, but still, like, they're not unexpected, I'd say. So I'm going to put that in the 1 tier as well. Supreme Verdict, again, basically is Wrath of God that can't be countered. Yeah, that is just essentially the exact same thing again with my perception of removal. Removal is just probably going to be mostly in the 1 tier. Again, if Swords of Plowshares is a 1, this is a 1. Austere Command, very flexible board wipe. This is choose 2 to destroy all artifacts, enchantments, small creatures, big creatures, whatever you need, it's going to do that. It is also a 1. And then here's another one that I think, like, this and Toxic Deluge are going to be 2 that are, like, people will argue about being a 2, I assume. Sorcery for 6 mana in white, choose 1 or more. Exile artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, all graveyards. It's very, very good. It's also 6 mana. Like, it is 6 mana. Like, is it an incredible one-sided board wipe? Yes. Is it Cyclonic Rift? Nowhere near. Because, like, again, it's not instant speed out of nowhere. It's not flexible in that you can't cast it for less of an effect. It is one of the best board wipes of all time. Absolutely. But again, I do think that the precedent has probably been set that, like, if Swords is a 1, this is probably also a 1. That's just my perception of it. All right, Eerie Ultimatum. It's a spicy card. It's fun. I didn't realize this was in the top 100. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's very cool, very spicy, very expensive to actually cast in very specific colors. Yeah, this is definitely a 1 as well. Moving on, Ruinous Ultimatum, and I got the art wrong on this one, my apologies. Sorcery for 7 mana, again, very specific. Swirl non-permanent to your opponent's control. This is Cyclonic Rift, but at sorcery speed in very specific colors. Yeah, because of all those factors, it is definitely a 1 as well. Yeah, I mean, it is just like, yeah, sorcery speed makes a giant difference in all these things, too. It really does. Blasphemous Act, almost said Blasphemous Ultimatum. Blasphemous Act, this is one that, again, I do think that this... Farewell and Toxic Deluge. Like, let me just move all these to the end. Like this, and this. Oh, there we go. Farewell. Like, these three, I think, could be argued for, like, okay, yeah, they are different than your standard board wipe, right? Like, your standard board wipe is Wrath of God. Cost 4, destroys all creatures, okay? That's just, like, your standard. Like, you have to be so much monumentally better than that to get out of that 1 tier, in my opinion. Farewell costs 2 more than that. It is flexible. Very flexible. So keep that in mind, yes. Blasphemous Act. 13 damage to every creature. It can cost just a single red mana, and most times it does. It's not going to take out, I mean, it takes out all creatures, okay, yes, for the most part, but, like, there are also cases where it doesn't take out certain creatures, like Protection from Red, Indestructible, Indestructible, I was going to say Regeneration, I messed the word. But yeah, there are ways around it as well, and there also are times where it doesn't just cost a single mana, and Toxic Deluge, again, is 1 mana less, it is flexible. I do think that those, again, are ones that people could argue with putting in tier 2, but I don't feel the need to move them up to tier 2. I do think it's just, like, nice to put a note on them, but, like, again, like, if Swords of Plowshares is in this tier, which it is, like, I think, like, the other ones belong in that tier 2. So I do think it's interesting because we're going to be seeing, like, the vast majority of cards are in 1, and I think some players might have a problem with that, where it's, like, the gap between Swords of Plowshares, again, and Hill Giant is massive. Like, it just is. It's massive. But, like, they're all in the same bucket because that's, like, what can be expected out of cards in Magic for the most part, like at a commander table, versus like when you do throw down like in like a Heroic Intervention, a Teferi's Protection, the other tiers, the Rhystic Study, a Smothering Tithe, a Cyclonic Rift, a Mana Drain, and of course those crazy tutors and Fierce Guardianship, like those are just different levels. That's a different expectation. And of course Sol Ring at tier 0 on its own because like Wizards can't ban Sol Ring ever. The community for the most part wouldn't have it. I would like it to be banned. I'll say that again, but it's never going to be banned. But yeah, it is just on its own tier because like if you were to say it was anything above that, then most decks would be a 4 or whatever because it is a 4 power card and it's not going to be banned. I mean, Mana Crypt's banned for a reason now, and that one would also just be like, oh, it probably should be banned as well, but it's not going to be banned because it's like a, it's kind of like the poster child of the format basically. Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about most things on this list. Again, I do think that I would love to hear from you in the comments below again, and I could be way wrong on a lot of these things too. Again, they only gave us like a little snippet of what the actual, thing is going to be at this point. Again, from 4 down to 1, and also like the weird little 0 Sol Ring thing. Like, they gave us a little snippet of it. Out of all the cards that they showed off, only 2 were actually in the top 100. Again, Vampiric Tutor and Swords of Plowshares. So those are in their appropriate tiers. And kind of utilizing all the ones that they showed us, like, as a gauge, I try to place them as best as I can. And I do think that this is a pretty good start. I do think there's probably... I'm definitely not right on everything. There's no way I'm correct on everything on this. Wizards going to have different opinions than I do. You will have different opinions than I do. I would love to hear from you, though. Constructive criticism, please. Feedback in the comments below. Where do you think these cards end up? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. We'll see. Again, maybe shortly because Wizards said that they want to get something out. They want to get like that potential website out where you just paste in your deck list and it tells you what it is. So, and what based on what cards, are which power level before MagicCon Las Vegas, which, yeah, is just around the corner. So we might be seeing that shortly. And I'm sure there's going to be adjustments from there, but yeah, we shall see. So yeah, if you haven't seen my most recent episode where I talk about like how the actual bracket system works, make sure you check that one out, and just my opinion on the whole thing in general. This is more just like a fun experiment where I'm talking about, hey, you know what? Here's the top 100 cards. Where can you probably expect to see these cards? This is just my opinion. I could be right on some. I could be very wrong on some too. So yeah, there you go. All right, let me know what your thoughts are on all this in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.